Leslie Redmond. She's the founder of Don't Complain, Activate. She's also the former president of the NAACP Minneapolis chapter. Leslie, it is great to have you back with us. This is supposed to be a celebration today, but I have to be honest, it still feels a bit very somber because we're taking stock of what has been a very turbulent year after George Floyd's death with all of these calls for change. Where would you say Minneapolis is right now?
I would say that we've made some steps. Obviously, the conviction of Chauvin was a step in the right direction. I'm thankful for Chief Arredondo, who we saw immediately fire all 4 officers, right? But what we want to see is systemic reform, right? Both on the national, state, and local level. We want Black people's humanities to be recognized. We know that even before Chauvin's trial was over, we had to suffer another loss of Dante Wright, another unarmed Black man who was murdered, right? Even though it wasn't in Minneapolis, it was in Brooklyn Center, that was right, a nearby neighbor. And so, enough is enough. We're tired of the deaths. Like you said, we're celebrating the life and legacy of Brother George Floyd, but the reality is that he should still be alive today. That would be real justice, is if Black men and Black women could live their full lives.
Congress has been working on the police reform bill bearing George Floyd's name. The intention was to have that passed by the anniversary. It hasn't. What do you think the Biden administration needs to be able to do to apply adequate pressure on Congress to be able to get some meaningful federal reform through?
I just want to note how problematic it is that we cannot push for justice and protection for African American lives, right? We see when our Asian brothers and sisters' lives were being threatened, immediately you saw executive orders, immediately you saw bills being pushed through to protect. But every time it's Black people's lives, there's an argument. And the reason is because our humanity has never been validated on American soil. I'm looking forward to seeing the George Floyd justice and policing bill to be passed. I want to make sure that ending qualified immunity is on there. I definitely think that right now we're in a better position to be able to push it forward, but I think that politics are politics as usual, and again, we're seeing just how much we don't value Black lives.
We're talking a lot about what needs to change in terms of the overall system. We know that the Chauvin verdict delivered accountability for this. I have to give all the credit in the world to the local organizations here in Minneapolis that continue to march throughout the year, long after the nationwide protests died down, to be able to get justice for George's death. What about the other officers? Their trial is in March of next year. What is the community planning to keep that pressure on to make sure that there's accountability too?
I definitely think that we're continuing to push because all 4 officers have to be held accountable for the role that they've played, just like we will hold any citizen for the role that they played in such an unjust murder that we all witnessed last year. I know that we continue to fight the good fight against systemic reform is going to be very important. Holding these individuals is one piece of the puzzle, but we recognize that Minnesota has some of the worst racial disparities in the nation. White supremacy is thriving in the state of Minnesota, so we just have a lot of work to do, and I urge the nation to support us in these efforts. The same that we support everyone else, support Black people here in Minnesota.
Leslie, it's great to see you and great to see you in person.